And there came a time known as the third millennium, a time when the people of the earth were ravaged by disease, pestilence, and poisons, a time when the horsemen of the apocalypse ran the multinational corporations, a time when America's citizens were waking up to a future of no money and no jobs, a time when a special man came forward, a man that your American taskmasters did not want you to see or hear, a man whom they took prisoner and hid away, a man whose name is Yahweh ben Yahweh. For telling people the truth, Yahweh ben Yahweh was taken prisoner by the minions of darkness. For giving people hope, Yahweh ben Yahweh was led away to Golgotha. This is the continuing story of the past and of the future, about good and about evil, about your life and what it will become. A story that tells why the so-called black man of America had to suffer for over 400 years. A story of what will happen to the so-called black man if he returns to the laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments of God YahwehBenYahweh. Olam shall YahwehBenYahweh. The universe of YahwehBenYahweh. Brought to you by the nation of YahwehBenYahweh. Working for you and your future.
Good or evil, life or death. This is your choice in this, the year 6003, the year of judgment. Shalom and welcome to the universe of Yahweh. My name is Josiah Israel and I am your host. For over 7 years now, we have been discussing some of the things the Bible said would occur in the day of judgment. We warned you that the weather was going to change, and that the powerful forces of nature were going to bring terrible destruction upon America and the world, and that it was going to get worse and worse and worse, and it has. We alerted you that violence in the public schools was going to increase, and it has. We showed you in the scriptures that forewarned of wickedness in high places, and we are witnessing today gross misconduct and serious crimes being committed by some of our highest elected officials. What lies ahead for America and the world is nothing less than the proliferation of deadly diseases and plagues as foretold in the Bible. But there is hope. The Bible tells us that at the end the Messiah would be revealed, and at that time he would save the righteous from this impending destruction. That one, the Messiah, is Yahweh ben Yahweh. So we invite you to join us in the universe of Yahweh, featuring the commandments of Yahweh and the Messiah revealed. First, the commandments of Yahweh.
For 6,000 years, we have been suffering at the hands of rulers who transgress the laws of YahwehBenYahweh and teach all people throughout the earth to transgress the laws of YahwehBenYahweh. In order to have peace, love, and harmony upon the earth, we must return to keeping the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of YahwehBenYahweh. All of us have been taught that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do not count today. In this series, we will show you that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do count, and that if we govern our lives according to these commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of God YahwehBenYahweh, then we will have peace and goodwill upon the earth forever. We invite you to study along with us. However, in order to do so, you must have the following tools: a King James Version of the Bible, several dictionaries, the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, a set of encyclopedias, Hebrew and Greek lexicons, a thesaurus, and a synonym finder.
Shalom, my name is Ben-Kail Bethel Yishraya. Yahweh put Adam in the Garden of Eden and gave him the first 2 commandments ever given to man, which were to dress and to keep it. We are discussing the word keep. Keep in Hebrew is shamar, and one of its meanings is watch. Watch is defined as to be on the lookout, be expectant. So to keep the Garden of Eden from the perspective of watch means that Yahweh commanded Adam to teach his progeny, his seed, to be on the lookout for or to be expecting the future birth of a child, like unto Moses, who would return or restore us, the children of Israel, to the Garden of Eden, the promised land. We are discussing some of the things that the prophets said about him. One such prophecy is that he would be the first begotten of the dead. Revelation chapter 1, verse 5. Last week, we examined the intrinsic parts of the word gotten. Let us review some of what we talked about. We told you that gotten has a twofold meaning. By definition, gotten is a past participle of get. We defined the word past and told you that it is an action having existed or occurred in a time previous to the present, and that the word participle, from the grammar definition, is a verbal form having some characteristics and functions of both a verb and an adjective. Further, we define the words verb and adjective. From these definitions, we learned that the characteristics and functions of a past participle from the verbal form of both a verb and an adjective is talking about a class of words that is telling about actions which establish the main part of what is being said about the subject YahwehBenYahweh, while at the same time this class of words is also describing the behavior and the work of the subject YahwehBenYahweh. When we carefully scrutinized the phrase class of words, we discovered that it is describing members belonging to an organization who voiced actions that they said existed or occurred in a time previous to the present that reflected upon the behavior and the work of YahwehBenYahweh, the first to be begotten of the dead. Today, let us first examine the kinds of actions voiced about YahwehBenYahweh that they said existed or occurred in a time previous to the present. To do this, we must get a clear understanding of what the word action means. In accordance with Webster's New World Dictionary, copyright 1997, on page 13, action means an act done. On this same page, act is defined as a show of behavior that is not sincere and is put on just for effect. In the Synonym Finder by J.I. Rodell, copyright 1978, on page 581, insincere means the same as false. Referenced in the Cassell Dictionary and Thesaurus, New Edition, copyright 1999, on page 339, for effect means in order to produce a striking impression. Therefore, the very nature of the past participle, gotten, shows the personality of a group of people belonging to an organization, more specifically the nation of Yahweh, who said that YahwehBenYahweh's behavior was false and was put on to make a striking impression upon them. Let us take a look at what this striking impression was about. From the Cassell Dictionary and Thesaurus, New Edition, on page 1084, striking means forcible. On page 429, force, the root word of forcible, means to constrain a person against their will. Constrain is equivalent to compel. In Barlett's Roget's Thesaurus, copyright 1996, on page 862, compel, reference number 428.8, is similar to dictate. In the Cassell Dictionary and Thesaurus, on page 294, dictate is defined as to give orders. The word impression means belief. Thus, these people belonging to the nation of Yahweh said that YahwehBenYahweh made them follow orders against their will and against their belief. They also said that YahwehBenYahweh made them eat a certain diet, that he forced them to dress in a certain fashion. They said that YahwehBenYahweh separated husbands from their wives. They even said that after they joined, they couldn't get out. And even more, some said that YahwehBenYahweh ordered them to kill, while others said they were just plain brainwashed. Were these statements true or false? The answer is found in Mark chapter 14, verse 56, which reads, "For many bear false witness against him, but their witness agreed not together." We see here that their statements were false and agreed not together, which in actuality described their character as liars. Yet they told these lies to someone. Mark chapter 11, verse 18 tells us who, and it reads in part, "And the scribes and chief priests heard it and sought how they might destroy him." The scribes and chief priests heard the hypocritical remarks from members within the nation of Yahweh, and they sought how they might destroy YahwehBenYahweh. Before we define who the scribes and chief priests are today, let us examine the word sought. Sought is a past tense and past participle of seek. Referenced in Webster's New World College Dictionary, 4th edition, copyright 1999, on page 1298, seek means to try to get by asking. Documented in the synonym finder on page 285, destroy means the same as get rid of. Thus, the scribes and chief priests tried to get YahwehBenYahweh by asking questions of members from within the nation of Yahweh who were liars, so as to get rid of YahwehBenYahweh. Let us learn who the scribes and chief priests are today, so we can understand clearly how these false actions or false statements were used against YahwehBenYahweh. First, the scribes. According to the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible, in the Greek Dictionary of the New Testament section, copyright 1990, on page 20, the Greek word for scribe is grammateos. reference number 1122, and it means writer. Stated in the synonym finder by J.I. Rodell, on page 1354, the word writer is synonymous to journalist, mythmaker, and scandalmonger. It is clear from these synonyms that the scribes of today are the media, journalists. Scribes are also called mythmakers. Myth is equivalent to falsehood, untruth, and fabrication. Scribes are even called scandalmongers. The Cassell Dictionary and Thesaurus on page 973 says that a scandalmonger is a person who disseminates scandal. On the same page, scandal is defined as slander. On page 1028, slander means to injure by the malicious utterance of a false report. Therefore, the scribes are people who write and disseminate stories that are false, untrue, and fabricated. They are people who seek to injure others by speaking malicious utterances of false reports. Second, the chief priests. We will examine each of these words separately. Referenced in Barlett's Roget's Thesaurus, copyright 1996, on page 844, chief is synonymous to leader. On page 100, reference number 68.3, leader is equivalent to ruler. On page 1206, priest, reference number 84.8, on page 116, is similar to master. Master, reference number 68, on page 100, means the same as government. Government, reference number 49, on pages 77 and 78, means the same as United States government, president, cabinet, Senate, House of Representatives, and judicial branch. Government takes you to law. Law, reference number 53.7, on page 81, takes you to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Therefore, these facts show conclusively that members from within the nation of Yahweh gave false testimony to the media and to the local FBI. The media reported these false reports in the newspapers, on television, and in magazines. Then the local FBI reported these same false reports to other branches within the United States government, meaning to the president, his cabinet, the Senate, House of Representatives, and judicial branch. It was these voiced actions, false statements by hypocrites from within the nation of Yahweh that were communicated to Pilate, the federal government, to get rid of YahwehBenYahweh, according to John chapter 18, verse 35, which reads in part, "Thine own nation and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done?" The word gotten verifies that people from within the nation of Yahweh voiced false statements to the scribes and chief priests about YahwehBenYahweh, who is the first to be begotten of the dead. It was prophesied that these things would happen to the one prophet prophesied to come, like unto Moses, to restore or return us, the children of Israel, to the Garden of Eden, the promised land. Next week, we will learn more about these previous actions when we carefully examine the intrinsic parts of the word get, as we continue our course of singling out the family of Adam from the perspective of the word watch and its relationship to keep. I bear witness to you today that the Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Mahdi is here.
I bear witness to you today that Shiloh is here. I bear witness to you today that the great light is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Grand Master of the Celestial Lodge, Architect of the universe, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Enlightened One is here.
I bear witness to you today that the one all religions have been speaking of for almost 6,000 years is here.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week as we continue our discussion of the commandments of Yahweh.
Is worthy? Who is worthy to open the book? Who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof?
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. At the end of time of evil rule, the Anointed One, the Messiah, shall appear. In 1979, Yahweh ben Yahweh came to Miami and became the spiritual leader and founder of the nation of Yahweh. Although he took a vow of poverty, in 7 years he guided the nation to amass a $250 million empire. Under his direction, the nation of Yahweh has grown to encompass disciples, followers, and supporters in over 1,300 cities within the U.S. and 16 foreign countries. Yahweh ben Yahweh is bringing about changes in the lives of individuals and is giving the world the keys to success in life, politically, economically, educationally, socially, and spiritually.
We must come to know and understand that it is a good land which Yahweh our God has given us. Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 25, Numbers chapter 13 verse 27. A great secret that the lost sheep of the house of Israel must come to know is this: our heritage, our land is the glory of all lands. Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 6.
The Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is the representative and instrument of Yahweh. Behold, the days have come that Yahweh has raised unto David a righteous branch, and a king to reign and prosper, and to execute judgment and justice in the earth. It is written that in the days of Yahweh, we, Judah, would be saved, and Israel would dwell safely. And this is his name, whereby he would be called Yahweh our righteousness. Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 5 through 6. And Yahweh has set up one shepherd over the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and he is feeding us the truth about Yahweh. Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 23.
Remember that this is the morning of the third day, and I shall rise again. I am the resurrection. All of prophecy tells you that I shall rise again. It's all about that. Luke chapter 2, verse 34. No doubt about it. Again, I love you forever, bless you forever. I remind you once again, my associates are children of the light. That just brings laughter to my heart, to my soul, to realize that at last I have those of you that love peace. And I only want to be in the presence of those of you that love peace. I love you forever. Shalom Aleichem.
The Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is the instrument that Yahweh is using to bring about justice in the earth today. Hence, Yahweh ben Yahweh is called the Good Shepherd. Yahweh has placed Yahweh ben Yahweh over us, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, as our righteous example. For it is written that in this day of judgment, Judah would be saved and Israel would dwell safely. Thank you for joining us in the universe of Yahweh. And now we'd like to invite all of you to pray with us as we turn to the east with outstretched hands and say a prayer to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Come, let us pray. Tefillah, Avenu Shabashamayim, Yikadesh Shemeaka, Tavo Malkuteaka, Yase Razonka, Kivashamayim Kain Baaretz, Etlekam Kukenu, Tain La Nuhayom, Uslak La Nu, Al Kati Enu, Kimosha Sol King, Gamanaknu, La Koteom La Nu, Veal Tefienu, Lade Nisayom, Kim Kal Senu, Min Hara, Kilaka, Hamumlaha, Veha Givera, Veha Tiferet, Leolame, Olamin Sila. We thank thee, O Yahweh, O living and eternal King, who has so mercifully restored our souls within us. Selah. Praise Yahweh, and always remember that the Father Yahweh and His Son Yahweh ben Yahweh love you, and your host loves you too. Shalom Aleichem.
To order the companion book to the series, The Messiah Revealed, call 1-800-967-PEACE. That's 1-800-967-7337. And when you call, ask about the special discount on the Kingdom of Yahweh Heaven. Videos of this program are available. When ordering, please refer to the program number on the screen.
You can now access the divine mind of Yahweh ben Yahweh on the internet at the address on the screen.